Now, let's talk about one important topic during the customer relationship management. Whoever buy commodities will have complaints or responses unless you don't buy anything. Then there won't be complaint at all. Are you worried about receiving customer complaints? I believe everybody is, but let me tell you, don't be worried about complaints because customers who make the complaints the most often becomes your strongest supporters and fans. So let's look into this and understand why customers make complaints. Are those people making complaints the difficult customers? How do we think about this? From what perspective? What's the impact of customer complaints? How do we handle customer complaints? There are ways to do it. Firstly, let's have a look at this. The basic principles. As I mentioned, those who make complaints are the people who buy it. When we are interested in a commodity, we will make comments. So we need to understand what customers think. Next, customers' complaints are our drivers for growth. In a career, if people make comments about us, even though the comments are not pleasant, because of these complaints or comments, and we know that we can make improvement and become better. And next, when customer complains, customer will be happier and like us more because they are thinking that they are making contribution to us because we are making improvement. So don't be worried. And next, what's the reason for customers not to make complaint? Say, for example, the company you work for never received any complaints. Don't be pleased or complacent. What's the reason for customers not to make complaints? Firstly, customers think that the company won't pay attention or would ignore the comments. And secondly, customers have to make efforts in filing complaints. And thirdly, company would think that customers are difficult customers and don't appreciate the complaints. Fourthly, companies do not think that customers are qualified for criticizing, but please remind that those making complaints are good customers. What's the reason that customers make complaints? There are three types of mindset and mentality. First of all, we believe that human beings are kind in nature. Most of the complaints are good intentions. They make complaints for your good. The next kind of mindset is to make complaints and get something in return. For example, a customer make complaints and get a bottle of wine for free. And the last type of mindset is bad intentions. The greater the company is, the more likely that a company will have this kind of customers. That's why hotels always have CCTV camera around. People might be bad intention. For example, the customer injured their pinky finger at the rotating door and they complain that they are injured because of the bad maintenance of the door. So that's bad intention. These are the three mindset of customers when they make complaints. A lot of the time, the complaints are good intentions. That's why sometimes a company needs to have people with the low background. What's the impact of customers' complaint? We are now in the digital era. As I mentioned before, the majority of people would not make complaints. 96% of customers wouldn't make complaints. There are so many people not being happy about a service, but they never say it out loud. And 90% of people who are not satisfied wouldn't come back and purchase the goods again. And among them, they would also pass on the feeling or bad experience to 20 people. We are in the digital world, we have social media. As long as there is any unhappy experience, this experience would be passed around very quickly. That's why it is so important to provide good services. When customers are not satisfied, they can respond this and share it around everywhere. we need to be very careful. Let's have a look at the type of complaints from the customers. The first one, some customers would tell you on their own initiative. Secondly, after customers tell you, and they will try to get their entitlement. Say, for example, there's a cockroach in the soup. You have to replace a new one, and they don't charge them. You even have to give them a discount voucher. The next type of complaint is angry customers, losing control and having a temper tantrum and telling the staff off. The fourth type of complaint is to passing the complaints around on the internet, making criticism. Let's move on to discuss about customer complaint. If it occurs to you and you're assigned to handle the complaints, what should you do? Are you ready for that? If it is done by a newcomer who is not experienced, it is very dangerous because this person doesn't have experience and will be nervous and doesn't know how to do it. So it's best to have someone experienced to handle customer service to avoid making it worse. The first thing is that, say for example, one day you are more experienced or it's your turn to handle the customer complaint. One important thing is that you have the right mindset and mood. Every time, every day you go to work, you need to tell yourself that no matter what happened today, you need to be calm. And next, you need to trust the customers. You need to be positive. You know that the customer do not intentionally look for troubles. Do not label the customer as someone who is looking for trouble. And next, you need to calm, and you know that when things happen, the customer are not upset about you. This complaint is not because of you. The customer have negative emotion because of the company, not at you personally. The next point to pay attention to is that you need to pay attention and handle the complaint immediately. Be swift. The quicker the better. And the next one is the person involved in the complaint should be recused. Say for example, if the customer is already angry, you probably doesn't want to listen to the person who make you upset. And you don't want to see that person again. So the person involved in the complaint should be recused. So the best thing is to have a supervisor who is experienced to handle the customer complaint instead of the person, the staff who makes the complaint, to make the customer angry. Now let's talk about the 5 key points when it comes to handling the customer complaint. The first one is to have good attitude. Why is it important? When a customer makes complaints, the customer is in a bad mood already. If someone who comes to apologize to the customer is not in a better mood, the customer will be even more upset. The staff should be very humble, feel very sorry for the customer because of such thing happen. Your attitude should never be worse than the customer. You need to be nicer, you need to be more patient, you need to be quicker, and you should have a senior member to handle the customer. And also, you need to provide compensation, for example, the accommodation voucher, because that shows that you are very sincere. As long as you do the aforementioned thing, the customer can feel that you are very sincere in handling the complaint. Next, what are the mindsets that should be avoided when you handle the customer complaints? There are 5 mindsets. Things have already happened. If you have the following mindset, please let it go. First one is, this is not my issue. Of course, you say this is because of the receptionist and your colleague, but we are a team. You cannot say that it's not your fault. The second bad mindset is that you want to escape from the customers who make complaints. If you have such mindset, customer can feel it, can feel that you are not sincere at all, because this attitude makes him feel uncomfortable. The next one, eye contact. Eyes tell everything. Kind people can be revealed their kindness through their eyes. If you look at the customers with doubts, customers are sensitive. They can tell immediately that you don't trust the customer. You think that the customer is in the wrong. You need to trust the customers. Next one, do not argue with the customers. Customers are already making a complaint because they don't think we are doing a good service. And if you are still arguing with the customers, that means you want to give this customer up. But being in the service industry means that we cannot create enemies. So never argue with customers. We need to be quiet, listen to the customer's complaint, take notes, and don't be indifferent. Being indifferent means that you are being ignorant to the customer's complaint and you are giving the customer up. So these are the 5 mindsets to be avoided. This is very important. Don't be ignorant. If I encounter a customer complaint, what should I do? There are 7 steps. Let's go into it in detail. Say I am being assigned to handle a complaint. The first thing I should do is to take my pencil and notebook. This is to show that I am prepared. I'm sincere. So bring the notebook and pencil. As the customer states the complaint, note things down, bullet point, one by one. Then show gratitude to the customer. Say, thank you, we haven't done things correctly. Sometimes we have blind sides. Thank you for pointing things out. I'm very sorry. Thank you for pointing out where our problem is. Next, you should analyze the root cause to the issue. We need to focus on the issue itself. Next, you need to understand the true reason that customer is upset. Have you grasped the real reason, or do you have an understanding? Sometimes the reason might be due to something else. And next, we need to respond to the customer proactively. Now that customer has stated so many things to us, it is wrong not to respond to the customer. We listen to the complaint. We need to interact with the customer. For example, asking them whether that's what they meant. How would customer want us to do? Perhaps provide compensation, give discounts, etc. We need to ask what the customer wants. We need to be sincere in handling it. We need to show our gesture of goodwill. And what's the ultimate objective? It is to avoid the same thing from happening again. Say, if we handle the customer complaint very well and we note the process down, this can be a good use case and case study for the trainings in the future. When there's a new employee, the new employee can know what things to be avoided so that the same thing won't happen again. So that's great. Once the customer complaint process is handled well, it is great. And after the customer make complaints, what should you do? You should not just neglect the customer, because if you neglect them, the customer will be gone. How do you keep the customer? First of all, as we mentioned, the customer state what they want you to do. We need to compensate on what they have lost. Next, provide effective values, which means this is what customers want. And the third one is to recover the values, original values that the customer want. For example, a customer have reserved a banquet hall for a lunchtime, but you make a mistake and then book it for the dinner time. But as time had passed, what should we do? We don't make a mistake easily. Once you make a mistake, you need to provide the double compensation. So we need to give double the value. Of course, we do not wish customer complaints to happen. And can we prevent it from? Yes, it's doable. First one, financially. Often customers state that they pay you this amount of money, but the staff member doesn't think so. That's why the first thing you need to do is that when the customer pay you or give you the credit card, you need to let the customer know how much you charge them on the credit card. You also have the note counting machine. You can make sure that you are charging the right amount. And the next thing to pay attention to is to the after-sale services. You need to make sure customers know how to use the service to ensure customer satisfaction. It's like when you bring your car to the car valet services. After you get the service, you get a phone call asking if you are happy about the services. The next one is to show care to customer regularly. Because of doing that, you often even get more service requests. I often bring my car to the car valet service. As long as the car is going to reach another 5,000 mileage, I will receive a text message reminding me to go to the car valet service again. It's applicable in the hotel industry because you can have the record from the system about the time when the customer came last time. We need to show care and we'll get more service requests. The next one is to remind the customer on your own initiative. If you can achieve this, the customer level, the amount of customer complaint will reduce. And the next important thing is about the mindset of services. Even though you are a 5-star hotel, it's not just about that. The frontline service member, including receptionist, cashier, reservation department, and even including the general manager, everyone should be consistent in providing the service. Now that I know about these tips, how do I let the customer provide feedbacks? Customers do provide feedbacks to us. We need to highly value customer feedbacks and even show gratitude. Sometimes customers will fill in the guest comment form. We even can phone them and thank them for spending time writing down the comments. We can even send a small present to them, thanking them for filling things down. That shows that we keep customers' feedback in our mind. We mentioned about handling customer complaints. After a customer file a complaint, what's the procedure of handling it? The first step is that to have someone else taking over the complaints. When customer is very upset, you need to make the customer calm down. How do you do it? Sometimes when customer file a complaint, we will ask them to go to the guest room, provide them a glass of tea or coffee, and ask the supervisor to come out. And then I will take out my notebook and pencil. I listen to the complaints, make a note, and make confirmation, asking them if what they meant is like this, and ask them when the staff member can reply them, because sometimes it's not up to us to make decision. We can ask the customer if it's okay that you respond to them in 2 days time or on a specific date. You need to clearly note things down and let the customer know that by when you will respond to them. And next, you need to understand the key issue and understand the solution. And you need to ask the customer whether they find the solution acceptable or what other thoughts do they have. And this is a joint effort. It is not that whatever you say counts. You need to seek the customer's opinions. And lastly, once the customer agrees with your solution, you need to carry out the solution and provide them with the solution by the agreed timeline. I mentioned earlier that we have the right procedure in handling customer complaints. Say, before the complaint happened, how do I treat customer in the right way? First, do not harass the customer. Do not disturb customers, especially when they are busy. Don't try to squeeze in lots of stuff into the customers. The customer is the first, has the highest priority. Next, when customers are talking to us, you need to pay attention in listening to them. Put whatever you are doing aside. If you are a receptionist, you have to answer phone calls, but the customer is also standing in front of you. What should you do? Perhaps the customer who stands in front of you has the highest priority. You can ask your colleague to take over the phone call. Customers is standing in front of you. They should have the highest priority. We should put ourselves in customers' shoes and solve customers' problems. And we need to make the utmost effort. When a customer make a phone call and seek assistance from us, even though now everything is fully booked, you shouldn't say, "I'm sorry, the room is fully booked." You need to make your utmost effort in solving customers' requests. The key point is that you cannot just reject the customer immediately. By hearing so, customer will know that you are not making an effort. In that case, what should you do? My suggestion is that you can respond in this way. "I'm sorry, currently it is fully booked. May I have your contact details? I'll try to find a solution for you and get back to you as soon as possible." And then you can hand off the phone and call the customer back after a period of time. Even though there is no room available, customer can feel that you are making the effort. This is the correct way. These are the 5 steps. 1. You should make efforts. You shouldn't just follow the standard operational procedure. You need to solve the problem for the customers. This is very important. Let's move on to the conclusion of this section. First of all, we need to thank customers for informing us the content of the complaint. Secondly, we need to have the empathy when it comes to the customer's complaint. We send them. And next, we need to analyze about the true reason of the complaint and prevent the complaint from happening again. We need to learn about this.